Life can be difficult. Have you ever faced or are you facing an impossible financial situation? Maybe you owe a great deal of money and have no way to pay it off. Perhaps you are very careful and diligently trying to save and budget wisely, but a medical emergency wiped all of your careful planning out. It's easy to get distracted by the needs, the desires, and the demands of today and lose sight of what the purpose of our money is supposed to be. This reminds me of a story about a woman who was in great need. She was a widowed woman that cried out to a man, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and the creditor has come to take my 2 children to be his slaves." Then the man said to her, "What shall I do for you?" Then he asked, "What do you have in your house?" And she said, "I have nothing in the house except for this jar of oil." "Then go and borrow vessels from all the people that you know and your neighbors, even the empty vessels. Don't just get a few of them. And you shall go in and shut the door behind you with you and your sons and pour out into all the vessels, and you shall set aside what is full." So she went with him and shut the door behind her and her sons. And they were bringing the vessels to her as she poured. When the vessels were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another vessel." And he said to her, "There is not one more vessel." And the oil stopped. Then she came and told the man and he said to her, "Go, sell the oil and pay your debt, and you and your 2 sons can live on the rest." This story takes place during the life of the prophet Elisha. It's about a widow who was afraid of losing her 2 sons to slavery because she owed money to a creditor. She came to and pleaded to the prophet Elisha for help. All she had was a small jar of olive oil, something common, not of extreme value. Elisha told her to go and borrow as many jars as she could from her neighbors. He instructed her to pour her oil into them. The widow trusted, obeyed, and witnessed the miracle of multiplication. Her little bit of oil filled every vessel they had. Her tiny bit of oil was multiplied to pay off her debt and provide for her future. There are many lessons that we can learn from this widow's obedience, but the bottom line is this. She followed the advice of Elisha, she worked obediently, and she demonstrated her faith through that obedience. Then God multiplied her efforts, allowing her to pay back the debt and free her from the fear of losing her children. God will always provide for us, but He often asks us to take a step out in faith and do our part first. Our obedience or disobedience doesn't change His character, but it can change the outcome. God also showed His greatness in her story by multiplying what she had, as she identified it as her only possession, that jar of oil. And He made Himself real to her by using that very thing that she said she had. This story is found in 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 1 through 7.